95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. The Trump cabinet nearly complete, and some of President-elect Trump's picks setting off shockwaves even within his own party. The biggest surprise, nominating Congressman Matt Gaetz, a Trump loyalist, to be the next Attorney General. ABC's Selena Wang has more.
This is really an explosive decision, and we had heard that this was a decision that Donald Trump had really been struggling with. Sources told us that Donald Trump had recently met with multiple candidates for this very important job of Attorney General, and that every single time he walked away unsatisfied.
Earlier today, President Biden welcomed President-elect Trump back to the White House, both agreeing to a smooth transition. House Speaker Mike Johnson has won the nomination to retain his role, with Republicans set to maintain control of the House. Senators today also choosing GOP Senator John Thune as the majority leader. After a devastating fire 5 years ago, officials say restoration of the famed Notre Dame Cathedral is finished. The grand reveal takes place next month. This is ABC News. Officials in New Mexico are investigating the discovery of possible human remains, possibly tied to a 2019 missing persons case.
On November 5th, a man from Jal, New Mexico, reported a disturbing encounter with Cecil Villanueva, who allegedly discarded what appeared to be human bones from a vehicle. Investigators finding bone fragments at two locations later confirmed to be human. A search warrant at a property tied to Villanueva led to the discovery of even more remains, including parts of skulls and jawbones. Forensic experts have now uncovered evidence of up to 20 skulls, potentially linking the case to the 2019 disappearance of Angela McManus, whose last known residence was near the property under investigation. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Overdose deaths in the U.S. continue to decline. The CDC says there were about 97,000 overdose deaths in the 12-month period that ended June 30th. That's down 14% for the previous 12-month period. I'm Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
When it comes to my lifestyle and diet, I don't always make the smartest choices. Touchdown! Woo! Hey, how about another round and some more chips? But when it comes to taking care of my liver, I do make one very smart choice. Active liver tablets from New Nordic. I used to have real issues with my liver, and at my last checkup, my doc was concerned about my numbers. But since adding a once-a-day active liver tablet, my gut's better, I feel great, and my doctor's happy. I ask a lot of my liver, so the least I can do to say thanks is a daily dose of Active Liver.
You ask a lot of your liver, so give it the support it needs with Active Liver. You can find Active Liver at Amazon.com, or for a volume discount, visit NewNordicUSA.com. Go to new, NORDICUSA.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New year, new you. New Nordic.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives. If it's Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, it is the Common Sense Conservatives right here, WSM 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. I'm Todd McKinley, Northeast Tennessee, joined by my co-host, John Grosvenor, who holds down the studio. And if you're watching, he's got the lights out. I wonder if he's got his Cavassier up in there. John, how are you?
I'm doing well, Todd. Yeah, the lights seem kind of dim, but I think it's the camera. I got them as bright as they can be just so you can see what little bit of me. But you don't need to see me. You just need to hear it all. That's all.
There you go. It is radio. And so how are things since the election? People are talking about, the local and the state elections that went on. And never mind, the Donald Trump winning the presidency. What are people talking about some of the local races and some of the state level races, your governor's race, for example?
To be honest with you, Todd, I wouldn't know how to answer that question. I work about 12 hours a day, so I'm not exactly getting in touch with everybody here on the streets, but
of course.
I'd like to, but it's just not quite happening that way. But I haven't read anything or seen a whole lot. I know some people in some of the community groups and stuff were asking, what do you think the left is up to now? What are they planning? What, so they have concerns about what kind of retaliations the left may have regarding Trump's entrance into his presidency. But other than that, yeah, I haven't been seeing a whole lot.
All right. And also joined by my co-host, Colonel Chris White, holding down his own home studio there in Central PA. Colonel, how are you, sir?
I'm very well. Good to hear from you guys. We are about to undertake an automatic bylaw recount here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as the Democrats waited and waited and waited and prayed and crossed their fingers, hoping that the margin would drop below 0.5%, which is the legal threshold. And finally today, the margin dropped just below to 28,000 votes. And now all the headlines are recount, but they're still counting votes. So we're not going to have a recount unless we get to November 14th and the margin remains less than 0.5%, but still a number of votes to be counted in the race for Senate between Bob. Oh, that's right. He is in the Senate, Casey, and Dave McCormick. But the lead is insurmountable, 28,000. So it's a done deal. And Dave McCormick will be our next senator from the Commonwealth.
Yeah, good deal. And what's the number of votes that are still outstanding? Do they know? Is it a couple percentage points, or just not sure?
I have no idea, since the Commonwealth is opaque in its conduct on this. They refuse to cooperate with the public, simply telling us since election night that greater than 95% of the votes are turned in. Well, it's now been a week plus. I'd like to know the status. They don't publish that publicly. So it's just at this point provisional ballots. All the mail-in ballots had to have been counted already. So provisional ballots can take some time, as the complicated way we do it in Pennsylvania, but the correct way to do it takes a bit of time. So I'm not sure what the holdup is. I would imagine 99% of the ballots have been counted. That should be my estimation. And I'm not sure why it's taking so long to finish it off. But there's no way. Throughout this, until today, throughout this process, McCormick had actually increased his lead slightly every single day as the mail-in ballots were counted. His lead grew under mail-in ballot counting. And then under provisional ballot, it's also continued until today, when it suddenly dropped below 30,000 for the first time.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. And of course, so you say there's going to be a mandatory recount. How long do they have to have that done and have the results turned into the people?
Well, they have to by November 14th. If the challenger doesn't concede, if it's below 50%, or excuse me, below 0.5%, if the challenger concedes, then there's no requirement for the state to do a recount.
Okay.
But Bob Casey's demented. He wants his tax-free job in D.C.
Yep.
Yeah, so he will not give up. And so the 14th is when they'll make the decision, and it's later in the month they actually certify the results.
All right, good deal. So yeah, and I want to go back really quick to something John just brought up there a second ago. He said, "What is the left up to? What are they talking about? What's going on in their circles? Are they disjointed at this point that they've lost, or are they just kind of mesmerized, thinking that they had it, or are some elements of the left planning something for, say, January 6th, as we talked about before, or January 20th? What are your thoughts? Would you put it past them?"
I don't put it past them. The Federal Bureau of Incompetence today raided the Polymarket CEO's home in Soho, New York, and they hit him at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, demanded his phone and his laptop and computers. I presume that they had a warrant. That's not been shared. The New York Post broke this story earlier today. So the FBI is now attacking Polymarket, claiming that we presume they're going to claim that they somehow fixed or rigged the election in favor of Donald Trump, because Polymarket accurately predicted that Trump was going to win. So it's already started. We've heard, anecdotal reports by major news networks, not by conspiracy theorists, that there have been secret meetings in the Pentagon trying to work up a plan to combat the incoming president. We've heard the rumors in the State Department, same sort of thing. We, of course, have seen from Gavin Newsom, calling for an emergency special session of the California legislature to Trump-proof the Bear Republic of California. We've seen the demonic governor of Massachusetts talk about Trump-proofing her state. And, of course, Tish James and Kathy Hochul, two of the most despicable politicians in America, talking about how they're going to fight back against the Trump regime. I really understand what they're fighting back against. The people voted for Donald Trump in a Democratic election, and we have a free and fair election. So Donald Trump is the oncoming president. He won with an astounding majority, a red tsunami across the country. There's no doubt that Donald Trump won the election. It was Democratic. So I don't know exactly what they're railing against, what machine they're raging against. The Democrats love democracy except when it goes against them. And we have a situation here where it's gone against them. Already 50,000 people planning a march on January 18th to protest the Trump win. What is wrong with these people? You know, we supposedly lost in 2020. Did we march on DC and burn it down? No.
No.
Did we run around with pink vagina hats on? No. Did we scream? You know, no. Did we make TikTok videos whining into the microphone about how the world was coming to an end? No. That's the difference between adults and Democrats. There you go.
I don't necessarily have any issues about them having a peaceful protest, providing it's peaceful. That's within their rights. But
no. It's not about their rights. The right to freedom assembly and the right to protest is a right. But what are they protesting? What are they protesting? That's what I would like to know.
They're protesting based on their feelings. They're hurt. I mean, I don't know, man. It's kind of nuts. They don't have anything they can win from a protest. You're right. Harris said it best in her speech. They are going to continue to fight. And,
well, it's the resistance. That's exactly what they're going to do.
And so,
I'll tell you what, here's a better use of their time. Go hang out in a sushi bar with a latte and enjoy yourselves, okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're going to continue on the way they've always continued on, and they're going to attack the Trump administration in any way they can. Anytime they see a weakness, anytime they see an opportunity to capitalize, anytime they can tell a lie, spread a lie, and push that lie, and can completely repeat that lie, they're going to do just that. These are just basic tactics that we all know and understand. We can expect to come from them. I think the Republican Party has really organized these last 4 years. I mean, they talk about this mandate, right? So they got their mandate. And what they're saying is the people voted for them. Now it's time to exercise this mandate, these plans that they have for this country, to redevelop this country and put it back on track. And so I think they're going to have a very hard time being resistant to the Trump administration. There's so much force behind it right now.
I hope you're right, but I'm not going to hold my breath because Republicans failed to win a decisive victory in the House of Representatives. And at this hour, they're still one seat shy, but there are 11 races left. 3 of them likely going to go their way to give them a narrow lead. But if they'd scored 250, 260 seats in the House, then I'd say, hey, all bets are off. We could do what needs to be done. But we have turncoats in the Senate, 2 of them we know about.
Yeah.
And we have a number of turncoats in the House of Representatives who vote against the interest of the American people in the Republican Party. So I'm not going to get too excited here. This is the only thing we've done for sure is prevent a Trump impeachment in the first 2 years. That's all we've accomplished here.
Where they're stuck is Trump is appointing people from the House already and from the Senate. And we got a 3-point lead in the Senate over the
well, but the rules are different by state. And in the case of the Senate, I can't speak authoritatively, but I think normally you have to do an appointment. The governors have to do an appointment. And where he's picking them from are Republican governors, so we're going to be safe there.
Right.
The House is a little different. I believe you have to have a special election in many cases, that could result in a district attorney. So, again, I think it's an own goal picking at least Stefan. Look, we're going to talk about the cabinet here. I'm sure Todd's going to lead us into that, but I have a lot of reservations about the names coming up in this cabinet already, and I'm happy to voice them tonight.
Yeah, I do too. And Matt Gaetz being the Attorney General designate, that's number one. I want to start off with him really quick and get everybody's thoughts on him really quick.
John, you want to go first?
Matt Gaetz, I was totally surprised. I just caught that before I came into the studio. I'm like, oh wow, because I thought he was going to be House Speaker. I thought that's where he was going to be best suited and where they would be looking for him to be. I did not expect for him to be picked as Attorney General. And again, he's picking out of the House. And right now the House is becoming a tight race. We might only get that one we need to control the House. And if you're picking from the House, your chance flipping the House back to the left. And that's a ridiculous chance to me. I thought he'd been better just to stay in the House and run for House Speaker.
Yeah, well, incredibly controversial pick, a man who is like Pigpen with a cloud following him around everywhere he goes, whether it's with hookers and child sex trafficking and minors, and the list goes on, being Republican, but in favor of same-sex marriage, but then opposing it. The guy has controversy everywhere he goes. Look, I don't dislike him. I think he's great in the House of Representatives, but I think as the Attorney General pick, there's two things here. It's likely to go through because the Republicans control the Senate. And even though we had a massive defeat today in John Thune being picked as the leader of the Senate, that's a rhino. That's a loss for the actual revolution that's overturning the swamp. So that's going to be problematic. So, I got a feeling that Thune was probably picked because the Senate Republicans think they know better than Trump, at least the majority of them. And so they're going to use that to leverage against Trump. So he's probably going to lose a pick or two, just a possibility, because these rhinos don't want people. And if they're going to go after anybody, this would be the first person they go after. They'll go after Matt Gaetz because Matt Gaetz is not popular amongst rhinos. I don't have a beef with him in the House of Representatives, but as a pick for Attorney General, a guy who's had cloud after cloud after cloud of corruption and sexting and this and all this other stuff following him around, that's not a wise choice for your Attorney General to uphold the rule of law. However, if it goes through, guy's going to be perfect, man. It's retribution city, man.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
It's like Judge Dredd. I am the law. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
that's right. The hammer is coming, brother. The hammer is coming, because if Matt Gaetz gets through and he is the Attorney General, Joe Biden, you better find a non-extradition country. Hillary Clinton, you better start packing your bags. I'm being a little dramatic here, but you get my point. The deep state actors, the corrupt politicians, there are going to be endless indictments against these clowns if he's the guy. And from that standpoint, I'm actually pretty happy, but I just don't think he's a good pick.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. I think if anything, he'll expose a lot of stuff that the left. He'll knock off the shine on a lot of these people that people have on them. Like you said, the Bidens, the Obamas, probably the Clintons and others, and be able to expose some stuff and say, hey, here's your glory people you guys have put on a pedestal for decades. What do you think about them now? I think if anything, he'll do that.
No, I agree. I think that's absolutely what's going to happen here. But again, this is a very shocking pick. The only other one that's shocked me as much or more has been Pete Hegseth as the defense secretary. Good Lord.
If I could, before we move on to Hegseth really quick, apparently Matt Gaetz is still under House ethics investigation. Amongst other things, this includes sexual misconduct, illegal drug use, and accepting improper gifts, and a few other things, apparently. So that's going to be very telling. And there's a couple of U.S. senators, Republican senators, that said he's dead on arrival. That it's a non-starter for them. So at least one or two Republicans are not going to be voting for him. So that's a big deal right there, I think.
Well, there you go. Again, that's a problem. So I'm a bit shocked. I mean, there are plenty of people. I mean, what about Ted Cruz? If you're going to pick somebody, in the government, pick someone that's actually got, now Gaetz is an attorney, but he practiced in private practice for like 3.5 minutes, and he ran for office, and that's what he's done with his entire life. I don't think that's a good idea to pick a career politician to be the Attorney General. Just saying. Right.
Well, his dad was a big state senator down in Florida for many years, and of course he just kind of followed in his footsteps and coattailed right into that House seat whenever it came open some years back. So.
Yeah, while his father was still in the Senate, in fact, convinced his father to vote for that gay marriage law. So,
yeah. So next thing you talked about is Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. To me, I'm like, yeah, that to me, he's a good personality. He speaks well, obviously, on TV. But to me, he doesn't have the chops to be a Secretary of Defense. I think it's a bad pick.
I agree. I think it's a bad pick. I mean, again, the only hope here is that the intent is just to simply shake things up. I mean, Hegseth has run his mouth about, he wanted to fire generals and he's anti-woke. And while I'm all for all that, this stupidity of some of our flag officers out there, the guy is a career politician. Yes, I know he's on Fox News, but he ran for the Senate unsuccessfully. He lobbied to be the Secretary of the Veterans Administration or the previous Trump administration. He's failed. And now he's going to be promoted because he's a loyal propagandist on Fox News. Look, nothing against Pete Hegseth, but I have struggled to find the depth of his intellectual capacity listening to him when he comments on Fox programs. He's not a very deep guy. Maybe he is off camera, but on camera, he is not a deep guy. I guess we got a caller here real quick, Todd. John's got somebody to bring in.
Let's go ahead and take a caller. We'll talk about
any chance it's Nikki Haley?
No, it's not Nikki Haley. It's someone of a male voice. Your line is open.
Yeah, this is Johnny Akers with WSMN. How are you guys tonight?
Doing good. How you doing, Johnny?
Good, sir.
I'm not doing too bad. I wanted to comment real quick about the pig pen Matt Gaetz walking. That was pretty harsh. He's got some qualities that might make him good from an attorney general standpoint, simply because I don't think he has any fear of going after the corruption in Washington. And I think he would be an antithesis to the rest of the rhinos that we need to absolutely get rid of out of the Senate and the House as expeditiously as possible. So he might not be the worst pick of all of them.
Well, I think that's a fair point that you're saying there regarding, he may not be a bad pick. And again, I said I have no problem with it. The comment about the pig pen with the cloud falling around is that whether Gates is guilty of any of the things he's accused of, much of which are obviously political, it follows him around and a lot of baggage comes with it. So the administration is going to have to start out of the gate when the whistle blows or when the gun fires. They're going to have to deal with controversy with Matt Gaetz, whether they like it or not. So they're actually inviting some headaches here that might be an own goal. That's my concern with the cloud falling around.
Yeah, and the pick for the Senate Majority Leader today, Senator Thune. All these guys that are labeled as rhinos or are ones that we view as not on the Trump train, or if you will, even the Republican train, as it will, as you would discuss it now. They need to be careful because the American people very much have spoken through not only the national popular vote, but, if you look at the electoral map, it's 92% in surface area red. And people liked what the policy platform of Trump is. And if people are witnessing senators and congressmen blocking anything that Trump is trying to do, there would be massive. So they have to understand that their own political future is in jeopardy if they try to halt anything that Trump wants to do.
Well, I agree with you 100% there. The challenge, of course, here with Thune is that he's a professional swamp dweller. A lot of people had hope when he came into the Senate, but he's been in D.C. since 97 as a representative for South Dakota and then a senator since, 2005, I think he's been a senator. This is a guy who attacked Trump openly, a guy who fought against him. And I have very real concerns. When he became a senator, I was quite excited because he had been a conservative to that stage, but then he became a professional swamp dweller in D.C. And I agree with the caller that, in fact, the country has spoken. As I predicted accurately, this wasn't a victory. This wasn't a red trickle like we had in 2022. This wasn't a red wave. This was a red tsunami, as you correctly point out. The country has spoken decisively. Gays, straights, Native Americans, Hispanics, Black men, Christians, Jews, Muslims in Michigan. Hey, get on board, folks. Whether you like Trump or not, the country is headed back on the correct path. And I think maybe that's what the caller's getting at. Did I misspeak for you?
No, you're right on the money. That's why I love your show every Wednesday night.
Oh, nice.
I tune in like religiously. I love your program. I'm a card carrying member of the Libertarian Party, but you guys speak the same thing that we're speaking. I'm very much a proponent of the Doge. I know y'all are probably going to talk about that a little bit.
We're going to talk about that.
Good deal.
Yeah, we need to trim the fat. The government needs to run way more efficiently. The best way, as you know, to decrease a budget is to decrease the amount of mouths that we're having to feed across the board. That includes employees. I mean, why spend all this money on AI and all these efficient computer programs and everything and still have somebody who's in charge of writing index cards for things? So we don't need 35-year people there doing jobs that can be easily done, either with technology or be kind of corralled in by other groups, and people can take on more. I've always said that if you want an easy, slack job, go work for the federal government because they have the best benefits, the best pension, the best salary program of any job in America. And once you get in, it's almost impossible to fire. And I'm hoping that Trump with Schedule F is able to say, hey, we're going to start getting rid of the dead wood here.
Well, hey, let's not be attacking all the bureaucracy. I am available to serve as U.S. Ambassador to South Africa should Trump see the light. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, you go right ahead and do that, but that's different. That's a public also. But I mean, I came out of the pharmaceutical industry, 31 years, veteran of the pharmaceutical industry. The FDA is a behemoth.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah, it could be slashed.
In the Department of Education, last time I was in Washington, it's over a square block long. That's how big the Department of Education is. So do we need that much? The power of the education should be with the states.
I agree with you.
The local school boards.
I agree with you. As a member of a local school board, I'm right there with you 100%.
And the 10th Amendment agrees 100% with you, gentlemen.
Bingo. Hello.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, you guys keep up the good work. I always tell John every now and then when I get fired up, and I've been fired up since I haven't really gone to bed since last Tuesday. I've been so excited that finally we can get something done in this country and move us in the right direction.
Amen.
And one of the shows we had earlier today, we were talking about John's career as a professional a transit engineer or a truck driver, as he is. We were saying, reason the truck drivers like truckers for Trump is because lower fuel prices, lower taxes, and in country tariffs on things on shipping and all that will matter. And so I'm really pumped up. I've just been excited since Tuesday.
It will matter. The thing about it is Trump wants to bring manufacturing back to the United States again. And that's part of why he wants to raise tariffs, because he wants to keep production domestically. And by doing so, it's going to boost our economy huge. It's going to be great for the trucking industry. If it's great for the trucking industry, it's going to be great for everybody else.
Yep.
I thought we were going to start talking about the trucking industry there for a second. I got enough of that from my mother. Hey, look, before Todd, if I can for just a second, let me ask you guys this anecdotally, okay? So, I'm a friendly person. John has met me. I greet people. I say hello to people. I wave to people. I'm still one of those silly folks that thinks he's driving the country roads of southeastern Ohio and waves everybody when I'm driving. They probably think I'm intoxicated. But I mean, it's just my nature to wave to people. And I still say hi to people, not quite as, crazy country as I've always been when it comes to that. But after November 5th, everywhere I've gone in central Pennsylvania, which is largely Trump country, everybody is friendly. People saying hello, people waving, people smiling. It's like a weight has been lifted off of our national consciousness. I don't know about you guys, but everywhere I've gone, now I've not been out of the state since this red tsunami, but everywhere I go here, everybody's friendly all of a sudden. It's like walking around. Everything's like a great relief. I mean, the inflation hasn't been tamed. We haven't kicked millions of criminal alien invaders out of the country. We haven't secured our borders. We haven't ended conflicts. But it's like, morning in America. I feel like 1984 all over again. Not the novel, but Reagan's triumph.
How did Harris get 71 million votes if that's the case? I'm still stumped on that one. I mean, I almost thought the left was trying to throw it to Trump. Like they were saying deep down inside, like, wow, we really messed things up and we can't fix things. We need this guy to do it, but we don't want to admit it. So let's just kind of like on a sort of way throw it to Trump.
He's walking into a buzzsaw. Make no mistake, folks. We already hear the carping. Oh, Donald Trump, he's already been president-elect for 2 days and he hasn't ended the war in Ukraine. What? Seriously? Oh, my gosh.
So that's Carville and the Levin imitation all in one, I think. You can do both of them at the same
I
voice.
mixed them up there. Shut up,
Get off my phone.
Somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building.
So a couple more appointees I want to talk about. The CIA director, John Ratcliffe from Texas. Of course, Tulsi Gabbard as well. She's another person that was appointed. Or will be, I guess. She's designated at this point. And a few others. Pete Hegseth. So several other people that are appointed to some of these positions that require Senate confirmation. A number of senators are saying they're a no, especially Tulsi, Hegseth, and of course Matt Gaetz, as we talked about. So there could be some opposition almost right away unless they do a clean voice vote somehow.
Well, I guess we should get right into it. So, Director of Central Intelligence Agency, John Ratcliffe, brilliant choice, smart guy. He's already filled a role in the intelligence community. I think that's the right choice. I'm 100% behind that. Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, technically John Ratcliffe's boss, technically.
Right.
I'm not even remotely sold on this pick.
No, not at all. I mean, I like whenever she's out on a podcast, something like that, railing against the left, exposing them. But that doesn't mean just because she's paid some sort of loyalty to Trump that she should be appointed to something like this. I'm sorry. Give her an ambassador post, but not this.
Here's the issue that Chris has got. You're taking a guy who's a boss and putting it underneath somebody who's not necessarily a boss, okay? Right. And they're doing the same thing with the Department of Homeland Security.
Exactly.
They're going to put somebody who's not a boss and she's going to be in over her head.
Well, that's another thing.
And you got Holman, it's going to be ICE, right? He's a boss. He's the guy who should be on top, directing everybody beneath him to get the job done. And what I'm afraid of is Trump's taking these ladies and he's picking them and putting them in impossible positions.
Well,
And they're going to fail, and it's going to be bad for his administration.
Yeah,
on that one, John. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, talk.
Yeah, real quick on our Facebook page, could you put the show up? A couple people sent me a note asking if you're going to put it up there.
Pretty sure okay, yeah.
I had difficulty getting the stream loaded up on my YouTube tonight. I don't know what's going on with the program, but I had trouble. But I'm gonna differ a little bit with John on this one. Look, I don't have a problem with Kristi Noem as the director of Homeland Security because Homeland Security is not ICE and immigration. It's everything. It's huge. It's got all these different departments under it.
It does.
Kristi Noem has been a governor with multiple departments, albeit at a small state, much lower, but the same breadth of control over multiple agencies. And I'm confident with her ability as a chief executive to handle that. Homan is a pit bull when it comes to immigration, and this informal position of border czar, I think, is great. Or put him in charge of ICE or whatever underneath Homeland Security. That's fine for me. I think it's going to work. I don't think that's a case where it's going to fail. But I'm concerned about Tulsi Gabbard. She runs for president. People are probably going to go, well, what are you talking about? This woman's run for president. She served in the National Guard, yada, yada, yada. Okay, Todd and I have both served in uniform with people. And we know great leaders when we see them. Do we not, Todd?
Absolutely. And definitely. She's great on podcasts, like I said, good to look at, but I'm not following her into combat, and I'm not going to follow her, most anywhere, especially to a buzzsaw.
Yeah. And in fact, we have 2 reserve component officers now that have been promoted here. We got Hegseth, who's a major in the Minnesota National Guard. Now he's in the IAR, so he's not active, the individual ready reserve. But we got 2 reservists who are being put forward, and there's nothing wrong with reservists. I mean, Scott Perry, the former leader of the Freedom Caucus in the House, is a retired 1-star Pennsylvania National Guard general. There's nothing wrong with that. Lindsey Graham is a lieutenant colonel, I think, or hopefully he made colonel finally.
I think he made colonel in the Air Force. The reserves there.
In South Carolina Air Force Reserve, the Air National Guard. Yeah, but I mean, so there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying here is that in Hegseth's case, I don't see the intellectual chops or the leadership capacity. And in the same thing with Tulsi Gabbard. Being a member of the House of Representatives is not leadership. It's a popularity contest to get elected, and then you go to D.C. and you squawk in committee or you squawk on camera. There are very few leaders. Jim Jordan is a leader in the House of Representatives, but there aren't a lot of those people out there. And Nancy Pelosi, as much as we detest her, was a leader in the House of Representatives, an evil leader, but she was a leader.
Palpatine was an evil leader.
Fair point.
So there we go.
Fair point.
But I agree with everything that you said. Just because somebody sits in Congress for 10 years, 20 years, or less or more, doesn't mean that they're a leader, like you said. Committee work is one thing where you can just sit and vote yes, no, whatever. You don't have to actually do any real work if you don't want to as a member of Congress. Your staff can do pretty much everything else for you. You go to a meeting every now and then, you throw it out a vote, yes or no. That doesn't mean that you're a leader or you're actually knowledgeable on anything that you're voting on or that you're supposed to have knowledge on with regards to committees. So I don't take somebody that's been on in a House of Representative or a legislative body as being a leader. They were just good at getting elected for the most part.
Well, that's true, Todd. But I mean, I think the question people really want to know is, what station are they listening to?
What WSM 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. This is the Common Sense Conservatives live every Wednesday night, helping you bring you back to reality. I'm Tom McKinley, Northeast Tennessee. Colonel Chris White holds down Central PA, and of course John Grosvenor holds down WSMN studio in downtown, beautiful Nashua, New Hampshire. We try to bring you guys back to reality. Free-flowing conversation is what this is all about. We don't really structure it, so we don't have to follow something regimented every week, so we can kind of do whatever the heck we want to with regards to whoever is hosting. So tonight I'm kind of leading the charge here tonight, but we always defer to the Colonel on most everything analytical because he did it for how many years in the Army? 30 some odd years, analyzing intelligence, political data, and all sorts of other things. So we have a wealth of knowledge here. We have a nice constitutionalist truck driver right there who loves to talk about the ELD mandates and everything. But we love this show and we love our fans because they're informed. They're people who really care about this country, and that's what we're all about. So thank you guys very much for listening to us. A little longer than you guys were wanting there, but Colonel, what's our next topic you want to talk about?
Well, let's continue with the appointments and the most useless position that we have, and that's U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. This is not a surprising pick. I think Lee Stefanik was going to be rewarded. Trump closed the gap in New York, a considerable degree, 12-point increase in his vote total between where the difference was narrowed by 12 points. He didn't gain a whole lot more votes, but he held the ground and gained a bit in New York. And Lee Stefanik had something to do with it. She's also a firebrand in the House. And I'm concerned we're going to lose a firebrand in House of Representatives and it's someone from New York that's a reliable member of Congress who's conservative. And it's a useless post. I mean, what is the ambassador to the United Nations done for the United States since the Cuban Missile Crisis? Jack squat.
Right.
Jack squat, I mean, look, if you put Nikki Haley in a position, it can't be that important.
I mean, talk about Pete Hegseth. Dozens upon dozens of former flag and field grade officers that are lampooning this, saying it's just a bad pick all the way around. So
okay, well now I changed my mind. If former flag officers are upset, then I'm on board.
Right, just like that.
Just like that.
That's all.
No. It's just like former intelligence officers, the intelligence community. The Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. Now, look. There's a reason why flag officers are going to come out against this because a lot of them are bumhurt that it wasn't them. And beyond that, also, this guy has talked about firing flag officers for incompetence. We haven't done that since MacArthur was fired. That's the last time we fired flag officers for incompetence on a regular, in a major way. It's overdue. I mean, we have too many flag officers. We don't have people like our friend there in New Hampshire, who's a genuine leader who led for the purpose of leading men and women in combat to protect our nation's interests. No. We got people that are there protecting their backside, like Milley. That's what Hegseth is upset about. And so these flag officers are, they're coming together. It's a small community. It's a brotherhood, even though there's sisters in it, but you get the point of brotherhood, a small fraternity of men and women who will protect their own interest. And that's what they're worried about here. But listen, I mean, the position of flag officers was greatly undermined this week by Wes Moore, the Democrat governor of the state of Maryland, who promoted somebody to brigadier general. Do you guys hear who it was?
I cannot remember. I don't recall.
Harriet Tubman became a brigadier general on Veterans Day.
What was the point of that?
And was no point to that. She never served in uniform. It's a disgraceful insult to those who served in our nation's uniform.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with putting memorials up to Harriet Tubman, to promoting her. I've spoke well of her and talked about what she did for the Underground Railroad, the amazing stuff, the life she led, a great American. She's a heroine in many ways, but promoting her or commissioning her as a brigadier general in the Maryland National Guard almost 2 centuries later, this is insulting and it's just stupid. And so there you go. They cheapen the role of a flag officer.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm looking at a few names here that are very familiar. Taylor Budovich, I sent him a nice note earlier. He's going to be assistant to the president, deputy chief of staff for communications and personnel.
These are people you know. You didn't give my name. Okay, Todd, I'm getting angry here.
I only sent him a congratulatory note earlier today, but I plan on following up with him.
Oh, Todd only sent his name in, John. He didn't mention me.
No.
You want the contact there so you can put in an application, Chris?
Send me an email. Look, I want to save this country. That's why I burned through my savings to get elected to the Pennsylvania legislature, and that was a waste of time. I really couldn't change much there. This is an opportunity to right the ship. We are listing badly to port. And it is time to get some ballast on the other side of the ship to balance us out and get us back on the right track. And we have a chance. 4 years will be gone. We'll be having this conversation, all things being equal to good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. 4 years from now, we'll have this conversation, whether I'm doing something else or not. I'll still be popping in if I'm, and we'll be talking about this and we're like, where did the 4 years go? Did we fix America? Have we demon rat proofed the country? Have we protected us against wokeness and leftists? That's a conversation we'll be having in 4 years, gentlemen.
I honestly don't believe this is going to happen in 4 years. I think this is set up for a continuation for it to happen over a period of time.
Well, whether it's been done in 4 years or not, we will be having the conversation because we'll be having the conversation if it's successfully been put in motion and the replacements to come along afterwards are there who can win office and stay in office. Then we'll say, hey, we've gotten there. Now we have to finish the job. But if we lose the midterm elections and we spend 2 years of impeachment nonsense, and even if we don't lose the midterm elections and we get to 4 years from now and it's unclear who's going to succeed Trump, then we failed.
Right.
And let's be honest, we can't fail. This is the
Yep.
greatest experiment in the history of human existence, and it
Right.
must continue.
You know, in 2020, going out on the campaign trail, doing Trump rallies and, and surrogate rallies, talking to people and how they felt, oh, Trump's done it. He's drained the swamp. He's done all this stuff over the past 4 years. And I'm like, people that thought that didn't show up to vote during that re-election in 2020. And I'm like, that's probably what hurt us in a big way. People thinking that the mission's accomplished. I'm like, we should never have a big banner mission accomplished here. We got to continue to drain the swamp because it took decades to get our national debt to where it is. It took decades for people to be ensconced the way that they are, for big money, dark money to have so much influence in our politics. It's going to take many years and decades and a lot of good people running for office and holding office to actually truly drain the swamp. We can't take our eye off the ball here. It's going to take all of us paying attention, being involved at the local, state, and the national level. If not, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely. No, Trump's not doing this by himself. He's going to have the support of us, a society. We're all going to have to be, even if you're just a voter out here, you have to do your part, whatever that may be, or intel, whatever your skill sets are, whatever you can offer locally.
Yeah.
Somebody was here asking, unless Trump dismantles, then rebuilds the 3-letter agencies from the ground up, doesn't he need deep criminal investigation auditors at the top? I just lost my spot. Oh, at the top for 3 months before he knows who was legitimate.
I don't think I understood the question.
I'm having a hard time with it too, a little bit. I think what he's saying is okay. So a lot of times what happens is these 3-letter agencies have people that are lifelong. They're career bureaucrats.
Well,
they get in there and they muddy the waters and they do things on their own. And we've seen this all the time where they create regulations that have no law to support these regulations. They're erroneous regulations that they made up on their own and they're trying to enforce them. And so I think what they're saying is if he's not absolutely cleaning house within these bureaucracies, does he need a deep investigation to determine who needs to be cleaned out of those agencies where they can be replaced, and we can get people with a clear head in there that's looking to better the United States of America, as opposed to continue leaving these people in there they're there for a paycheck and a retirement.
Well, every single executive branch agency, the head of that agency is appointed by the president and can be fired at will by the president. Doesn't matter whether they're career or not, they can be fired, removed from that. So the head of the National Security Agency traditionally is a general officer appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate. Mm-hmm. And we had a head of the National Security Agency, Michael Hayden, Air Force general, who went on to be appointed the director of the CIA by Bush, and he filled that role. Then he was the deputy director of national intelligence. These are all positions, the head of the FBI, the head of the EPA, that's going to be Lee Zeldin. That's another agency that could go away, but Lee Zeldin's a good pick, a fantastic former member of the House and a failed candidate for governor of New York. It's a tough state to win as a Republican these days. Sure. But, it's so I'm not sure what the issue here is. Anyone that, it's Trump's fault for not firing Comey the day he walked in office. The man should have been sacked. An investigation should have started into his misconduct while Trump wasn't president, but Trump was stupid and naive. He better not be that way this time around.
So I think if I understood the gentleman's question, the answer to that is we have the Office of Inspector General, and they do reviews and audits and stuff on different agencies. So you can pretty much determine by assessment. Like you said, they put a head into an agency, and if you got bad actors within the agency, they're supposed to weed them out.
Each of these agencies has some form of inspector general. That's correct. Mm-hmm. We also have the Office of Personnel Management, which has oversight responsibility across the executive branch for investigations. So that's another arm there.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are means. It's just a matter of, are people going to take their job seriously and get it done? Here, Gus is talking about something we talked about earlier about flipping the House if we're out of control on who we're appointing. I mean, if Trump's out of control where he appoints too many people, and if they have runoffs in states, we can lose the House. That is a concern.
No, that's absolutely true. But in the case of Matt Gaetz, that's a solidly Republican district. In the case of Elise Stefanik, it's a solidly Republican district. So it provides
not a high risk.
Yeah, it's not a high risk unless they put that guy up that they kicked out of the House from New York.
Right. Yeah.
Then they're in trouble. But in the meantime, there is a problem with that. There has to be a special election, and while that seat remains vacant, it doesn't get filled. So if the Republicans only have a 220 or a 219, and they just pull 2 out of the House, they no longer have a majority in the House of Representatives.
Right.
Until an election is held. And who knows what kind of nonsense monkey business. The Republicans have to get to 220 something, and it's looking like they're going to get there, but narrowly. So Trump needs to be careful what he does here.
I think they got to get 218 to control the House, and then one seat away. And I think Alaska's going to deliver that to us.
No, they are, but we've already pulled two people out of that legislature.
Right. Yeah,
so Stefanik and Gates are members of the House of Representatives. They've just been nominated, so both of them are out. So that if we get 219, we now have 217 until special elections held.
Also, another Florida congressman. He's going to be, I think, the national security advisor, right? Former SF officer whose name escapes me for the moment. I can't.
Waltz.
Waltz. Thank you. I think he's the national security advisor.
Is he? Yeah, he's listed for that. Is he from Florida?
He's from Florida. Yeah, out of Florida. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what his district looks like, but yeah, that's 3. So that means you have 221, or you won't have a majority on day one.
Yep. Exactly.
And if you think you're going to get the tax cuts made permanent or extended or new legislation, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't have a Republican majority in the House and Senate.
No,
so this is a very dangerous game. So at this hour, as you mentioned, Alaska, Begich is up by 3 points out of less than 300,000 votes in the race in Alaska. That's for the president. I don't know how many were actually voted for the House, with 91% of the votes in. So that means there can't be more than about 20-some thousand votes remaining. Let's say there's probably 20,000 votes, if that. He has a 9,550 vote lead. There's no way he loses in Alaska with that margin, up by 3 points. So you can count on that. That gets us to 218. Then California 13, Duarte, it's +2, but only 74% of the vote is in. Right now, that's trending favorable for the Republicans, but he only has a 3,700 vote lead. So he should win, but I'm not going to count my chickens in that race. Then there's Cisco Mani, who is up by almost 7,000 votes with 90% of the vote in finally in Arizona, but that's a 1.7% lead. So that should hold. Now there's that takes you to 218, 19, 220 right there. But then California 45, Steele is ahead, and Steele has actually increased this modest lead by about 400 votes. But with 90% of the vote in that district, he has a 2,200 vote lead. That could change, so we have to be very careful. The one that's interesting here is Iowa 1. Miller Meeks had a 0.3 or a 0.03, so it's very low lead. Now it's almost 0.2% with 802 vote lead. That had been consistently since election day around 650 to 750, but now that is inched up to 802 as these provisional ballots are counted. 95 plus. We don't know if it's 99%. I don't know. So I'm not going to count that one, but I think that might be promising we have it. So that means 218, 19, 20, 21. That's 222 if all those go away. And then there's an outside chance. There's a couple of races. The Democrats have a slight lead. Maine 2, which is taking forever to sort out. And in that one, Golden's lead has dropped from about 1,000 to 726. And then in Ohio 9, Captor has a 1,200 vote lead there. And I don't know the total. So I don't think those are going to go. But right now it looks like the Republicans might slide in with 222. But we've already talked about 3 people from the House that are gone. So, you can't mess around with this, Trump.
No.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Cannot. So I
always leave yourself a cushion. Don't cut it too close.
Right, absolutely. But it is good that those are safe Republican districts. However, what's the process in each state to appoint somebody temporarily till there's an election? Some states are a little different, so I'm not sure what each state has.
A lot of media outlets have been saying it's going to be about 218 for the Republicans, and that's just barely a win, right? And so but then again, they might be hopeful, left leaning and hopeful.
Well, I went and looked it up just to double check here to make sure I'm straight in this, because the states do this differently. But in the House, the chief executive of each state, that's the governor, is to call for an election to fill a vacancy according to Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution, which is that while the seat is vacant, the office of the former representative remains open and is operated under the clerk of the House of Representatives. In other words, there's no vote there. So if Trump takes 5 people and they get 220, he takes 5 people out, then they have 215. Mm-hmm. So then the Democrats have more people, and anything that comes before the House will be voted down because the Democrats will vote 100% what they're told to do.
Oh, of course.
But the Republicans will still have the House, right? They'll still have the majority as far as
they won't have any majority because they won't have the votes.
No, until the election, as far as control over the House,
they won't control the House because they won't have the votes. The people that Trump is now appointing, if they go forward, they won't be seated in the House of Representatives, and therefore they will not be in the House. There has to be another election, and until that election is held, whenever that'll be, 3 months, 6 months, 2 months, whenever each state does it, that seat remains.
You wouldn't have a House Speaker until those.
Oh, you would have a House Speaker. It'll be Hakeem Jeffries.
and Matt Gaetz has already resigned, and it ends the investigation into him in the House. So
he's just resigned. So that's one less seat the Republicans have now until they have a special election. So this is a dangerous game. I don't know who's advising Trump. Quite frankly, I would not have picked Gaetz and Stefanik. I would have left them there. And Waltz, I don't know. I don't know much about him. But I mean, to risk the House of Representatives to fill the ambassador to the UN, I mean, for God's sake, bring Nikki Haley back. She can't do any damage in that position.
Right. Yeah. Now, but Matt Gaetz resigning. Here's one thing it does: it eliminates him from the House, and at the same time, perhaps you're going to get a different, maybe better Republican in that seat. And at the same time, let's say he doesn't get confirmed in the Senate, or Trump pulls his nomination. He's kind of out of the way as far as being,
this is a very high risk game by Matt Gaetz now.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I know. Yeah, but he needed that investigation shut down. But here's the thing: all the information's still there that they've gathered so far. I mean, it's still there.
It'll haunt him because it's not concluded.
But as far as that, unless they find criminal activity they can refer to a law enforcement body, if it's just an ethics violation, there's nothing can do to him now.
Yeah, it ends right then. Yeah, it ends
exactly.
right then. Yeah.
If it's just ethics violation, that's the end of it. Hey, listen, I want to go back to something the caller said earlier. We didn't get a chance to get into this. Is that okay, Todd?
Absolutely, please.
All right. So he was talking about Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy in a roundabout way. He mentioned Doge.
Yep,
all right. We haven't talked about yet. I know you were going to bring up. I want to talk about that. I want to be very clear about this. People need to be realistic about what they're expecting from Musk and from Vivek Ramaswamy, because only 18% of the federal budget is discretionary spending under the control of the president. So we can blame Biden, we can blame Trump for deficits, and they bear some burden for it. But you need to blame Congress, because 82% is mandated by law. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security payments, that stuff cannot be cut unless you change the law. And thus far, in the past 50 years, we've had nothing but moral cowards in Congress who refuse to cut. In fact, under the Reagan administration, they not only refused to cut Social Security, they doubled our rate of taxation. And now we have so few people supporting the payments to people who are receiving Social Security, this Ponzi scheme, and Medicare and Medicaid, which are so out of control, not to mention George Bush's prescription drug benefit for seniors, which costs us hundreds of billions of dollars a year, that there's very little that can be done. You know, Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk may be the best people in the world at cutting out fraud, waste, and abuse. But we've seen this before. We had the Erskine Bowles, that whole commission under Obama, which had fantastic recommendations, and then Obama simply ignored it. Nothing was. We don't even need to do a study. We don't need Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, although I can find a role in this administration, but they don't need to do this. All we have to do is resurrect that study and just adhere to it. And there's plenty of cuts in there in the discretionary budget. But even if you squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, you are not going to save billions or trillions of dollars. It's just not there. Now, the one thing you can save is we are still paying $600 billion a year in wealth transfer to people because of COVID. Why are we paying $600 billion a year in people's pockets because of COVID? Stop it. There's $600 billion. Then you stop the subsidies to the sugar industry. That's $5 billion. And to the maize industry for ethanol, and you save money there. But once you cut that stuff out, there's not much left to do. What are you going to cut the defense budget? Actually, I'm in favor of that. But there's only so much you can cut. People have to have moral courage to step up and address entitlements, because entitlements are a path to insolvency, and that's where we're headed. We are paying over $1 trillion a year in interest on the debt. $1 trillion in interest. Now, this is interest on debt that was issued at less than 1% of compound interest. So it's basically free for us. We just have to pay it back. Almost nothing on top of that. Now we're issuing debt at 4.5%, 5% from the Treasury Department. Wait till those bills come due. This country won't survive that. We need to deal with this, and that's what has to be addressed. So what's going to happen is that Ramaswamy and Musk are going to identify a bunch of stuff that needs to be cut, and Congress won't cut it, and we'll get nowhere. So I think this is a mission that neither one of them should take on. I think it's a mission that Trump should not focus on. What Trump should focus on is reducing corporate taxation, reducing personal income tax, which will see a dip in revenue for 2 years, and then it will surge, just like every tax cut that's happened under Bush and under Trump. Every time within 2 years, the Treasury was getting record amounts of income because income soared and taxes coming into the Treasury soared, GDP soared, people's pockets were bigger, their net worth was more, and that's what we need, tax cuts. And these people that call that, what do they call it, trickle down? It's not trickle down, it's actual economics. People that don't understand economics call it trickle down economics because the left is clueless when it comes to economics.
That was a made up term by, I think, Gene Autry, wasn't it, way back in the day?
I don't know who
that
made up. I just remember that they had
twisted and
text.
tried to use against Reagan in the 1980s.
They did. Stockwell was his financial advisor, and it worked. The Reagan tax cuts worked. The revenue soared. The problem is that spending never got reined in. And the problem is now spending we are spending $7.4 trillion this year. $7.4 trillion. In 2000, 24 years ago, the federal budget was $1.8 trillion.
Uh-huh.
Now people are going to be Chris, there's the inflation. No, even with Biden inflation, we haven't seen the value of the dollar decrease that much that we're spending 3.5 times what we spent, nearly four times what we spent.
That's like
25
double or
years ago.
triple inflation.
It is triple inflation.
Yeah.
It is triple inflation. The point here is we're spending money endlessly. There was no Department of Homeland Security 25 years ago. And our caller was telling me cut the Department of Education 100%, cut the EPA 100%. Doge, here's the irony, Todd, and go ahead. It's your night to leave, but here's the irony. We are talking about cutting the size of government by adding a pseudo cabinet position and a new department. Now, isn't that ironic? Now, I hope it's just a czar who doesn't have a big staff, doesn't have a budget. But in theory, this could easily turn into a huge, huge Damocles sword around the president's neck. I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could be one of those an agency that goes around the different departments, agencies, and offices and inflicts their will, like they have some sort of authority to cut positions and fire people and all this stuff. It could get out of hand very quickly if we're not careful.
I was under the impression it was supposed to be about government efficiency, meaning doing analysis on different agencies, different ways governments are spending money to give advisements and how they can cut costs. But I first thought it was a joke. Doge, right? Dogecoin.
Yeah, that's his, no, it's his cryptocurrency. That's why he tried to coin it that way.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was a joke at first when it came out. I'm like, I had to go look at Truth Social. I go, no, it was right there. He published it.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. And did you guys see that Jack Smith, he's looking like he's going to be dropping the case in Florida with the mishandling of the classified. He's probably going to be resigning. I don't know if he's resigned yet, but looks like Jack Smith will be gone in the next couple of days.
Well, I hope he doesn't resign so Trump can fire him, because his appointment was illegal and should be investigated for criminal activity by the Department of Injustice and Meritless Garland. His appointment violated federal law, and someone needs to pay a price for that.
I kind of thought he was going to drop the case, write a congratulatory letter to Trump, and ask for forgiveness. He really tried to turn the screws on Trump erroneously. I mean,
right. So let me ask though, with all these cases that are still out there with the January 6th and all this stuff, does Trump get to a point where he just does some sort of blanket pardon of everybody at once and try to move on from it, or how does this
on
work?
J6?
Yeah, January 6th and anybody else who's had charges, especially federal charges.
I honestly don't believe that that's how it's going to happen, because Trump had made it quite clear there are some people that broke the law and need to
some of them,
need to serve their sentences for having done so. And so I think there is a process in which people can file for a pardon. And it goes under review and goes to the president, and he signs it off if he agrees with it. So what it's going to take is for people like you and I that are aware of things that, people that have been falsely accused or
overcharged or something,
things like that, to bring it to his attention. Their family members and stuff more than likely get involved in this, and or friends or people that have been advocates for it. And I think they will individually submit applications for pardons, and he'll go by that path.
Okay, yeah, interesting. But even those who worked on his campaigns and in his staff in the past several years that have been charged and been convicted, does he pardon them, or what do you think about that? Giuliani as an example.
I think you're right. I think if it's a federal case and he has the authority to pardon, he probably, I would see how he would go back and pardon them for that. And I think that we've all witnessed that a lot of this was just lawfare and wrongful attacks on individuals like Giuliani.
Right.
What was another one? Bannon.
Yeah. Well, but Bannon's already served his time. So what he can do with his is he can basically set aside. It sets aside his conviction. So the president can overturn any federal conviction. He can give clemency for a sentence, reducing it. He can give a commutation. He can give a reprieve if necessary, and he can pardon a crime. Yeah. So it's as simple as that. It doesn't really matter whether it's in the circuit courts or it's a military tribunal or
Right.
it's the District of Columbia court. The president has authority over any federal crime for clemency and for pardon. And there's no rules on it. He can do it to anybody. I mean, Clinton forgave Mark Rich, who spent his life in Switzerland hiding out after he screwed Americans with his finance nonsense. But anyway, so yeah, you go. So I think Trump should come in office and make a statement about January 6th. Those who've committed minor petty offenses sentenced to ridiculously long prison terms. And also, I think he should do a commutation. Next hour's come up, Todd.
I agree with you. So stick around after the commercial break. We'll be right back here on 95.9 WSMN at 1590 AM. Common Sense Conservatives. Take care.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. Since it's President-elect Trump now, the Washington, D.C. election interference and classified documents cases against him are going away.
In the coming weeks, Special Counsel Jack Smith will be putting the finishing touches on his final reports regarding the investigations of President-elect Donald Trump. The investigation centering on the alleged mishandling of classified information and Trump's role on January 6th. In all other Special Counsel cases launched under his tenure, Attorney General Merrick Garland has made those reports public.
ABC's Pierre Thomas. The president-elect wants to nominate Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz as the next attorney general. He's also going to nominate Florida Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. One person was killed in at least one explosion outside Brazil's Supreme Court in Brasilia. A police statement says an artifact exploded outside the court. Officials say the court's justices all left the building safely. This is ABC News. In Brookhaven, New York, a volunteer firefighter is in a whole heap of trouble after a string of brush fires.
Long Island, New York is bone dry. No significant rain for over a month. Now a 20-year-old firefighter there is facing arson charges. Jonathan Quiles of Medford, New York, arrested after phoned-in tips about a brush fire. Brookhaven Town Supervisor Dan Panico says Quiles' alleged actions
imperiled his brother and sister firefighters
and could have caused significant damage
and also potential loss of life.
Quiles charged with arson and reckless endangerment. His arrest comes amid ongoing investigations into several brush fires in Brookhaven. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Let the office debate begin. People magazine has named actor and filmmaker John Krasinski its sexiest man alive for 2024. In an interview with the mag, Krasinski cracked he's hoping wife, actress Emily Blunt, makes good on her promise to plaster the cover as wallpaper for their home. I'm Richard Cantu, ABC News.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Unlock Black Friday deal days at Campers Inn RV. Shop no haggle pricing with new deals all month. Get a cruiser in brace for just $13,995 with even more savings coming soon. Unlike other dealers, we don't advertise an unrealistic price and hit you with marked up fees. You pay what we pay for factory freight and prep. We provide a detailed, transparent quote so you know every cost up front. Find your dream RV with zero surprises at Campers Inn RV today.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago. Servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives. I'm Tom McKinley in Northeast Tennessee, joined by my co-host, Colonel Chris White in Central PA, and John Grosvenor in the studio there in Nashua. One thing we didn't talk about was some of the people coming out of the Senate in the first hour, really. Like Marco Rubio, as an example. He's a designee for Secretary of State. What are your thoughts about him taking people out of the Senate, even though we do have a decent majority there, or at least enough of a majority?
Do you want to start with me? I take or John,
yeah.
John,
Sorry. Go ahead, Colonel.
I was pausing for Chris, but
I think we're both waiting. Yeah, I can go ahead, John. We do have a comfortable lead in the Senate now. My issue with Marco Rubio is not so much taking stuff from the Senate, but my question is Marco Rubio. Will Marco Rubio be the reliable team player that Trump thinks he's going to be, or will he be the rhino that he's been since he went to Congress, gang of six kind of guy? Now, the good news is I think he's going to be a team player and do what Trump tells him to do. So I don't think he can hurt us in the Secretary of State role. I mean, look, he's going to replace, Winkin, Blinken, and Nod, Antony Blinken, who's been the biggest disaster as our foreign secretary in decades. So it can't get much worse than that. So I think it will be okay there. But he also comes from Florida, which is reliably Republican at this stage. So his replacement in a special election should wind up, or to fill out his term, should wind up being will be a Republican most likely. So that's not going to hurt us. Right now, that's the only member of the Senate that's come out, is it not? It's the only one I see. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, J.D. Vance, but that was a given because he's on the ticket. So that will be a Republican, and there are several names that will be appointed to fill the rest of his term or until the election is held. So he's only served 2 years in the Senate. So that's a pretty meteoric rise to the highest levels of power.
Thune was another one.
I'm sorry, John.
Thune.
John
Thune. Yeah.
Thune is from Dakota. That should be an easy one to get to. So, no, Thune is not in the cabinet. No, Thune is no, you're mistaken, guys. Just two. Thune is
Thune's going to be majority leader.
He's majority leader.
We did talk about him. Yes, we did talk.
Yeah,
about
but
him.
he's majority leader. He's not filling a cabinet position.
That's
so it's just two at the moment.
Right.
And both of those should be easy fills.
Mistake.
No, that's quite all right. But I mean, I think we're okay. I think he's smart to pick former legislators like Lee Zeldin. I think that's a smart move. John Radcliffe is another former legislator. So these are not things that hurt us. Tulsi Gabbard's another former legislator. So actually, I would have put her at the UN, to be honest.
I'm not sure how Florida works, but usually Chris said it earlier, governor would appoint the next senator in place, as opposed to, for some reason, House has a runoff, but senators, I do believe, get appointed. Of course, it may depend on the state. And I think DeSantis has 2 more years on his term. So I think he's going to still be there, right? As far as having a Republican governor and
he's in place for another 2 years. So, but I think he's in his second term, so he is term limited.
So it's a pretty safe bet that he can be replaced with another Republican anyway.
Right. Well, what he'd probably do, I mean, what would be interesting to see if the governor, DeSantis appoints himself to the position and then runs for it in a special election, which so most places, I think that's perfectly legal to do that. And there's been many times in our history that the governors have done that.
Has it? I was kind of questioning that. I was thinking about that earlier, and I was questioning that. I'm going, can you really do that, or is that like a conflict of interest?
I believe Joe Manchin did that whenever he was governor of West Virginia. I think he appointed himself and then ran for it. I believe that's right.
Well, the governor of a state is under the 17th Amendment is to call an election to fill a vacancy in the Senate.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the state legislature can authorize the governor to make a temporary appointment until the special election is held.
Right.
Now, in many states, the special election is held during the next regularly scheduled election to replace the temporary Senate. So it would fill until the next one, regularly scheduled election. So the next regularly scheduled election would be the rest of that term.
Right.
But in about a dozen states, they have a standalone election. So it's confusing when it comes to Senate, but it's pretty clear when it comes to the House. But each state is a little bit different when it comes to Senate. But Trump just needs to be careful. I mean, we've got 330 million Americans. There's plenty of talented people out there that can fill these jobs quite well. You don't need to be dipping into the swamp.
Well,
He's dipping into the swamp for these names.
I criticize the Trump administration a little bit on that because they have not been forthcoming and open about application for these positions.
They haven't. I haven't heard anything.
Closed.
I can't find anything.
It took me a week and a half or just over a week to figure out where to go. I was looking at the GSAs. Back in August and July, Trump was supposed to fill out some forms for the GSA. And as you know, the Government and Services Administration is supposed to offer offices and computers and anything that the president-elect needs for the transition process. And I guess Trump and his crew wanted to go it alone and self-fund it. And so they kind of kept closed doors on it. And I was kind of critical about this, but I think I finally figured out where you need to go to file for application. I'll get it to you here in a little bit, Chris.
No, that's cool. You know, I not that I envision being in the administration, but I mean,
no, you're putting in an application or you're getting a boot up your butt.
Look, I mean, the country needs to be saved. That's why I stepped forward. I mean, sitting back and moaning about things is not the path forward. So that's why I want to make a difference here. Hey, we were talking about pardons before that clock ran out.
Right.
And, you know, it's interesting because they're going to lose their minds when Trump starts pardoning January 6th transgressors. But here's the bottom line. The precedent for this was set by President Washington. He raised an army of 13,000 troops, marched to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and then they tried and convicted 2 people of treason. As the Whiskey Rebellion melted away, there's never a battle. And President Washington pardoned both of those convicted of treason. You want to talk about a serious offense. It's a death penalty offense, treason, but he pardoned them. And then in the 19th century, in a much more controversial situation, Andrew Johnson pardoned thousands of Confederate veterans who were leaders in the Confederacy, political and military. He pardoned them. And so this isn't exactly unprecedented, but they're going to lose their mind. The New York Slimes, the Washington Compost, all of them are just going to lose. And of course, Angry at Mitchell and all of that's we still have that, of course, from the famous Rush Limbaugh. He always called Andrea Mitchell angry at Mitchell. I always love that. And then we've got, of course, we're going to have Rachel Maddow and all these other crazy ones like Scarborough and his demented wife there on MSLSD. They're going to scream, "How can he do this? This isn't right. This is just no. It's perfectly fine." First off, by the way, they're still banning about. I saw this today. They showed it on the news earlier. Amy Klobuchar talking about an insurrection. Not a single person from January 6th has faced a charge of insurrection. Not a single person,
right?
Because there was no insurrection. It's a myth. It's a fantasy. It's a demented dream in the minds of Democrats and leftists.
Well,
they were charged with interfering with an official proceeding, trespassing, destruction of property, things like that. Most of them misdemeanors. And we've seen people sent to jail for ridiculously long prison sentences. Trump needs to get in there and needs to forgive the Proud Boys guys. Look, I didn't even know who these people were, and I have nothing against it, but I saw the footage of Proud Boys actually, or Oath Keepers, they was Oath Keepers, actually escorting the police out, protecting police whose lives were in jeopardy at the Capitol building at some stage. And then they sent these people to prison for an insurrection? No. And plotting an insurrection. Who plots an insurrection leaves all their firearms in Northern Virginia? That's not very smart.
Right. Yeah.
No, it wasn't an insurrection. That was a lie they told because under the suspension clause, they could violate their rights. So by claiming it was an insurrection, they can suspend habeas corpus.
Which is what they've done. We still have people that have yet to be charged and in prison.
Yeah, there you go. So it was a false claim. And they used a false claim. And that means that they're wrong. They're the ones who are violating the law.
They're the ones who should be investigated and prosecuted. I'm going to tell you what, that's if Gates is the attorney general, that might be the one silver line is he'll just go after these clowns.
Let's hope. Let's hope because it needs to happen. It really does. We need some kind of understanding that just because you're in a position of authority doesn't mean you have the right to violate people's rights. You don't have a right to step all over American people like that.
Well, in fact, John, you have a more sacred responsibility not to do that because you're entrusted
Exactly.
with great power, and to abuse that is simply wrong. Now, there's a question for one of my viewers in the UK there, Keith, who said between now and January 20th, he said 25th, it's the 20th by law, Keith. Between now and January 20th, what, if any, changes can the current president's administration be allowed to make? All kinds of changes. They can change the cabinet positions, although getting a confirmation is going to be difficult because they're not in session. They can appoint people to different things. They have certain latitude. He can do all sorts of things, executive orders. He can block the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, which he's not doing, but he can do all kinds of things. And Trump will come in on January 20th, and he'll get a pen out and he'll strike all that crap down.
Absolutely. Yeah. Any executive, any executive action that Biden has taken, Trump can just undo it with one stroke of a pen if he wanted to.
Absolutely. And that happening on January 20th.
That's
Biden
what Biden did.
He banned the Arctic, he banned the Keystone XL pipeline. Trump needs to rescind that nonsense and get that back underway. I don't know if the people invested in that project even still want to do it at this stage. It's been 20 years we've been playing around with that now. But that needs to be done. We also need to have any bans on Gulf of Mexico drilling removed, and we need to go from there. And then we need to strike out, once again, Trump. One of the smartest things Trump did, which made his presidency so successful, was on day one, he struck out 10,000 federal code regulations that affected business, just took them all out. So, yeah, that was Joe Biden. He was asking if he's still president, calling up Todd.
Yeah, he's still president and name only.
My mind's going blank here.
What do you guys think about
somebody?
Somebody was saying something. I don't remember where this came from, but something about Joe Biden stepping down so that Kamala Harris can be inaugurated just to try to stump Trump up or something.
Well,
I don't know how it would.
I did say that a few times, and I said, you watch Trump will win. I said it a couple of years ago before. Trump will win, but they'll say, all the merchandise that they have ready to go with 47 on it, they'll screw that over to make her the 47th president. I can see it happening just out of spite. But at the same time, I think Biden at this point doesn't like Kamala, so I don't know that he would do that just to do something nice for her. At this point.
I think that's the saving grace. If there wasn't this hatred, look, she called him a racist in a presidential debate, which 100 million people were watching, then he was forced to take her as his vice president. She was nothing but dead weight in his presidency. Not that he was actually a spring chicken or any live weight, but the point is that then he was a palace coup tossed aside for this loser in chief, Kamala Harris. I don't think that. I mean, Biden seems gleeful that she lost. It's the last thing he'll do. Now, if he expires in office, then she will become the president. But he looks like the amphetamines will keep him going at least till January 21st.
Yeah, as soon as he gets off the helicopter to Andrews, they'll have to wheel him over in a wheelchair to get on air, or the executive one aircraft that he's going to fly him to Delaware. So they should send him back on the Excel, I think. Yeah, forget a plane or a helicopter. Just throw him on the train and be done with him.
I think Spotify should give Joe Biden a contract a la Joe Rogan, and Joe can have a podcast. We can all tune in. I'd like to take this guy out and kick his backside. Yeah. Corn Pop was a scary guy, man. And kids like to play with the blonde hairs on my leg. What the heck is this guy talking about?
Such a weird dude. Like, come on, man. You got to give us context of what you're talking about before you rant.
So I mean, isn't it ironic that Democrats call Republicans weird? And these are people walk around like they're cattle with nose rings and multicolored hair and unnatural hair colors and trying to undermine the English language by inventing and fabricating pronouns and destroying normal relations between Homo sapiens. And they call Republicans weird. I just find that hilarious.
You skip the most obvious. They can't identify a gender or sex.
Yeah, or where the Surgeon General wears a dress. Pick a gender and stick with it. You know what I mean? And it was assigned to you at birth, people. Hello.
To be fair, Admiral Rachel Levine did pick a gender. That's exactly what she did. She picked a gender.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying you were given one at birth. Stick with it.
It's amazing.
That's not fair. I don't identify the way I was born.
It's amazing how they can remember a sex when it comes to like talking about reproductive rights or something, but otherwise they're lost.
Listen, it's not your body, your choice. Get your jab, or you're a criminal and you're killing grandma. But wait, I thought it was my body, my choice.
Yeah, right.
But you're endangering other people. Didn't you just endanger the baby you terminated? Just saying.
So, Keith would like to know between now and the 25th January inauguration. I think it's on the 20th.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about a few moments ago there, John.
Yeah, noon.
Yeah,
yeah.
You can make any changes. It's the 20th. It's not the 25th. It's the
Yeah.
20th. By law, that's what the Constitution says. The 20th of January. Yep. Now there have been a lot of changes in the transfer of the certification of election results because it hadn't been changed since 1877. And so while Trump was at office, they made some changes, none of which are going to have any major effect on Trump being sworn in. But they've explicitly made it clear that the role of the vice president is simply ceremonial, which is how I read the law to be. But those who wanted Mike Pence to overturn the results, actually, what we should have done is did what Josh Hawley was doing, and that is contest the results from Georgia, Michigan, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and thrown out the electoral votes from those races. That's what should have happened. But now the role of the vice president is clear. It's simply ceremonial. You just there to Dominus Omnis and Patrimium, sign the paper, and you're done, certified. You have no adjudication role, which was never the role of vice president. But in this past election, a lot of people claimed it was, and that kind of split the Republican Party because a lot of people who failed civics class didn't understand the role of vice president.
Right. Yeah, that's true. We're talking about the transition too, and of course, this is an article that came out a couple of days ago. And of course, President Trump's met with President Biden in the Oval Office since then, but he had yet to sign agreements that would unlock some money and some resources with regards to the transition. So maybe they are trying to fund some of this themselves and do it their own way. I'm not sure.
Oh, well, from my understanding, they've now properly filled out the forms for GSA and stuff, realizing they needed it. One of the issues about GSA, there is a transition act of what 1963, and it was
right.
Amended again in 2022. They added to it, and I don't know the details of the act because I never really read it. But from my understanding, you're supposed to file with GSA and stuff like that. And a lot of the processes of transition is sensitive information, classified information, things like that need to be transferred, and you're supposed to go through GSA and stuff like that. So without doing that, then you won't be able to properly transition, from my understanding, or you'll do so blindly. And then once you're in the White House, you got to get caught up and stuff. And that's kind of like delays the process. So
right. Yeah. You don't want people sitting on the sidelines, waiting to try to do work, but
right.
Yeah.
So,
very interesting. Yeah. Very true.
But from what I've heard, Trump has been really, well, he doesn't trust the government, basically, like the rest of us now.
Right.
He's been railroaded so hard. He's been railroaded by the left so hard. So we actually wanted to have more of a controlled transition within his own, by self-funding. To my understanding, that was the case. And now that he realizes that, he's going to have to go forward with GSA.
Yeah, because the GSA has their tentacles in all the different departments and agencies that you're going to need to be able to communicate with and have information to get information to them, and vice versa. That way, on day one after confirmation or when people are appointed, they can start doing the job essentially right off the bat versus sitting around waiting to figure out who's in charge of what. It makes sense to have the GSA involved, I think.
Yeah, it does. And it's a very expensive process. If you're going to self-fund that, that's going to be
good luck with that. Yeah.
You might want to let the government do its job in that regard.
Absolutely. But I'm wondering, at what point do we get an idea of what the full cabinet's going to look like? How many days have we got?
Well, this is pretty fast. I mean, these names are coming out fast and furious in the last 36 hours. So, I mean, we may know by the weekend what most of these picks are. I mean, it's going really, really fast for Trump.
There's about 4,000 total appointees, I think, all in all.
Yeah, but nobody cares about that. They care about the cabinet positions. That's what's really. So, I mean, we'll know that pretty quickly.
That's a matter of teams. That's not that many. It's
the 4,000 positions are the contact you're
administrators
supposed to apply for.
Right.
Yeah. Well, no, you got administrators. You got ambassadors.
I do it. Well, ambassador is what I want. But what I do want to ask, which of you put together the 7-figure bid to auction today for Alex Jones InfoWars? So who's the new owner? Is it Todd or John?
Neither. I'm good.
I just put in a bid somewhere else, so I was a little shy on the bidding, so I lost the bid. So
shame.
Just a little, man. If I just had a few pennies more.
The inside scoop is that an ally of Alex Jones is the one who put the 7-figure bid in, which would mean that they buy it out, and then Alex Jones still has a job at InfoWars. It just won't be his anymore.
Yeah, is that something that could still make money? I'm sure that it could. I mean,
it'll make a ton of money, and it won't be subject to the $1 billion lawsuit, or the $1 billion. I
think the issue here is Alex Jones is InfoWars. It's like what Tucker Carlson was the daily caller, right? I mean, he kind of made it. Well, that's kind of like not a very good comparison. But the point is, if Alex Jones says, hey, I'm going to pick up and start a whole new business and rename and rebrand myself, I mean, can he not do that?
Say that again. If what?
Somebody bought InfoWars,
Right.
right? And Alex Jones says, hey, I'm not part of the package here. I'm going to pick up, move on, rebrand myself, and start a whole new business. Can he not do that?
Of course he can. And this wasn't a personal judgment against him, I don't believe, was it? Or was it against him a personal judgment? It was a personal judgment against him. I'm trying to remember. Was it against his network? If it's against him, he's screwed the rest of his life. Yeah.
Yeah.
He owes the money, so he's screwed.
Oh,
So
okay.
yes, but InfoWars can survive and he can work there as an employee and they can garnish his wages, but they have to leave him something to live off of. So
What was that purchase to cover that cost?
yeah, they're auctioning off his assets, and his assets include InfoWars and his dietary supplement company and all that. But that's not going to raise $1 billion.
No.
I mean, InfoWars will probably fetch $2 or $3 million at auction, so we're about 997 million short.
Well, they really railroaded him.
Well, of course you do. It's an illegitimate judgment. This is
And
ridiculous. He
I
has
think
freedom
that
of
was a
speech.
civil case, right?
It was a civil case, and it's the most ridiculous thing. And it frankly should have been appealed to the federal courts and should have been overturned. It's unconstitutional. The judgment against him is unconstitutional. These damages aren't real. These are fictional judgments. This is unbelievable. What it does is it silences free speech.
That's
Now,
exactly what it does.
and it's just wrong. And notice a lot of people have been very circumspect about what they've said on media ever since then because of this nonsense. It's insane. I mean, so the people who he claimed I think he claimed that it was a hoax, that it never happened, that the government made it up or something like that. How were people harmed by that? They claim that they went through emotional distress. Your emotional distress is worth $134 million. I don't think so. Sorry. Just saying.
No, that's definitely a liberal court favoring them just to punish him. They didn't care about those involved. They just wanted to punish him, make an example of him. And as you said, it through fear, it suppresses free speech. So they can't take your rights away. So they're trying to use other means. It's like guns, right? You know, they make it so difficult of a process. People are afraid to own guns. They got people fearful of guns because they're afraid they'll shoot themselves with them or something. They got people fearful to own guns because they don't understand the laws, because they're so convoluted that they can't possibly understand the laws anymore. So it's just to get you to agree to give up something that you rightfully own. You know, your rights.
Yeah. No, but the judgment against him was $1.5 billion. Yeah. Against him and InfoWars. So they're never going to get all that money. This just shows you how, this, and then the nonsense with the $480 or $78 million, $76 million against Trump. That's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This is the law out of control. The Constitution protects us against unreasonable fines. It's right there in the Constitution. Our liberties protected. And his constitutional rights were violated with that judgment in New York. The entire case should have been thrown out on that basis alone. It shows it's politically motivated. It was intent to deny Trump the resources he needed to run for president. And I heard again this week, these nonsensical leftists, the only reason Donald Trump ran for office was to evade prosecution. Oh, give me a break. Yeah. So this 78-year-old man ran around and did 1,000 freaking rallies all over the country, burning through a few $100 million of his own wealth, plus $300 million donated to him just to avoid going to prison. Do you know how Donald Trump avoids going to prison? He moves to Moscow. Trump would never expatriate. He'd live in a palace in Leningrad or St. Petersburg. Give me a break. These people are dumb as a box of rocks. I think they're the same box of rocks where they found Kamala Harris at.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Then of course they're just afraid that he's going to actually accomplish something, and they're never going to be able to regain power ever again. I think after the next 4 years, if they play the cards right, Democrats will be a party that's on the outs and nationally. I would hope so. But it's up to the House and Senate Republicans of what they do, I think.
I'm just thinking about what Chris said, and I'm thinking to myself, I want to agree with the Democrats on that one. Yeah, he had to run to avoid going to prison, and you're the ones that drove him there. Now you got to suffer with the consequences.
Right.
You mean it's a ha-ha moment.
Yeah, you're the ones who convicted the guy or tried to convict him, coming up with all these nonsensical charges, using the criminal justice system to go after your political opponent, basically lawfare is what we've heard about, which is all this is, nothing more. So to avoid prosecution, so he shouldn't have ran for president, then you wouldn't have prosecuted. So therefore, that means there was nothing there to prosecute to start with. Had he not ran, you wouldn't have prosecuted him. That's what they're saying.
Exactly. I mean, it's just the whole thing is just ridiculous, folks. I mean, it's unbelievable. So on social media today, I noticed already the left is starting that Donald Trump didn't win the popular vote. They're already trying to start that nonsense, claiming they didn't, and they're holding out hope that enough votes remain out in Washington, Oregon, and California, Hawaii, and Alaska that it will turn the race in the popular vote in favor of Kamala Harris. But she still needs to close over 3.2 million votes to overtake him in the popular vote, and it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. There aren't that many votes out there.
Wait a minute. Did you just say they're election deniers? Is that what it was?
Yes, I did call them election deniers. I did a video, I did a post, and I did that on my live broadcast this week. I talked about election deniers, and in Pennsylvania, we have election deniers. Bob Casey is the chief architect, along with Mitch McConnell, along with Chucky Schumer, the Crypt Keeper. These are election deniers. They refuse to accept that Bob Casey has finally lost an election, and it's long overdue. And I'm glad that I got to be part of it by living in Pennsylvania and voting against that fossil.
I keep seeing that Austin, what was that? Austin, Mike Myers movie there.
Austin Powers?
Austin Powers, yeah. the scary lady yelling out, "Bring out Antifa."
My favorite part of that, it's a man,
man,
yeah.
baby. Absolutely. But let's say, President Trump gets all his cabinet, gets everything that he wants. How soon are the Dems going to start trying to bark up the impeachment tree, even though they don't have the majorities? I mean, they're going to try to go for it in some way.
If we screw up and pull too many people out of the House of Representatives and their seats aren't filled and we don't have the speaker and we don't have control of the House, they're going to start immediately. They'll vote. Every single one of them will vote to impeach, and that's all it takes. They'll draft up articles of impeachment, and they'll try to get a quick impeachment on it just so they can get it on the record. It will never be a trial in the Senate.
Right.
Or it'll go to Senate. They'll have a trial and it'll be defeated, but it'll complete waste of time. It'll derail the effort to save America. They don't care about America. America to them is who they give it to so they can enrich their self-aggrandizement, self-enrichment, and their egotistical need to be in power. That's what it's all about. So, I mean, they don't really care. It's just shameful.
They're trying to warp it into something it's not.
And the denial is always there. I mean, we already saw tonight the comments coming in from Hakeem Jeffries. Let me see if I can find that real quick. I had it here a few moments ago. Hakeem Jeffries, where do these comments go? He's basically, saying that, well, it's not exactly a wave, come on, give me a break.
Sure. Yeah. trying to downplay it. And here's the thing. Let's say they do get Kamala over the finish line and they win the popular vote by a few votes here or there. They're going to use that as to point to the fact that we need to get rid of the Electoral College. They're going to be like, see, prime example of why we need popular vote, not this Electoral College.
Well, they've been trying that all along, but they're they're wrong. They're wrong.
Somebody plugged in a comment earlier in the show at the beginning. Aqua Tofana. I mean, this is quite the last resort. I mean, talk about shaving your head and wearing blue wristbands and wearing masks so they can identify one another, but now poisoning men in retaliation because Trump won. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know what Aqua Tofana is, if you look that up or anything, but
no, I'm sorry.
Okay, so Aqua Tofana was a thing that happened in Italy like several centuries ago, where women, the way they were dealing with abusive husbands and such, is they were poisoning them to death. And sometimes it was a slow death, and sometimes it was very quick and rapid. So these women now are trying to create this movement. They're calling Aqua Tofana, and I guess the poison comes from a flower or a plant or something like that. So that's why it's called that. And so they're trying to create this movement though to poison men to death, I guess, in retaliation because Trump won. Wait a minute. First, you have to identify somebody's sex. Can you identify a man? Do you know what a man is?
Well, I mean, honestly, the whole thing here, I mean, these women run out shaving their heads, putting on blue wristbands and making this B4 commitment. No sex, no dating, no sex, no marriage, no children for 4 years. It's ironic, but the election of Donald Trump has achieved what the people on the far right want, courtesy of these demonic lunatics. So we won't have to worry about abortions because these women won't be having sex and getting impregnated. So yeah, there you go. You've saved life by not creating it. So
I
Lord.
Don't know that I'd want to be with a woman that thinks that way. I don't know about other men, but that's what we call scary and we want to run away. Somebody that has that kind of mindset. It's not what you call attractive.
Right. Well, now the people with Polymarket, the CEO, and others are starting to speak out against the FBI raid that that went down this afternoon. Of course, obviously, looks like it's politically motivated. I mean, honestly, it's another way for Democrats, from what I could see, to be able to point to, oh, see, the Republicans have rigged elections, and that's kind of I think that's why they're going after this guy. That's what it looks like. I'm just trying to read a few stories here that just popped up. So, but yeah, that's going to be an interesting story as it unfolds to figure out why they went after this betting platform guy specifically. I mean, who cares about a betting platform? I mean, it doesn't sway my vote.
In my estimation, this is the deep state's first salvo. They fired the first round, and that's what they're going to do. They somehow think that the poly market had something to do with the election. No, you had no positions. You had no platform. You violated the tenets of democracy. You stole the nomination from Joe Biden. You promoted transgenderism to the detriment of high school girls who are being raped in bathrooms around this country. You put boys and girls sports and destroyed scholarships for girls in their lives. You've caused undue stress on people. You've put men in women's prisons where they've raped women. You have destroyed our foreign policy. You have buried us in debt. You have an idiot vice president who can't walk and chew gum. Our only answer to everything is, let me be perfectly clear. Okay, Donald Trump's been running for 9 years. Yeah, we know that, sweetheart. How about telling us your policy? And then she comes up with policies which are unconstitutional. Hey, I'm going to give black men $1 million line of credit, and then we're going to forgive it. No, you're not. That's a violation of the Constitution and federal law. You cannot do that. But, I mean, this is why they lost. This is idiots. That's why they lost. They think they lost because of something completely different. They're so out of touch with reality. And I love it because they can't come. There's a few voices of reason in the Democratic Party going around. Hey, guys, we got to look at ourselves. We can't be doing this. And now we see them backtracking. We see, senior Democrats going, well, we can't just have open borders. Really? But you didn't have a problem with it for the past 4 years. As long as you have political power, you love open borders. You love destroying this country because it doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect the Cape Codders. Martha's Vineyard. In fact, Martha's Vineyard had empty houses during the off season, yet they wouldn't take the undocumented aliens and house the asylum seekers. Not in our neighborhood, not in our backyard. NIMBY.
Even when they were delivered.
Right. Even when they were delivered. Oh, no. And there's nowhere for them to stay. About 60% of the houses in Martha's Vineyard are unoccupied in winter, so they could stay there. Well, no, there's no jobs. There were dozens of jobs in the local paper because there was no one to work because the holiday people disappeared, but the places still need to be open in the wintertime. So they're all just frauds, and they've been exposed to what they are. And a lot of Americans have woken up and seen that. The Democrats are in trouble. Now, that doesn't mean the Republicans won't screw the pooch and mess this up. Republicans have an opportunity here for generational control and generational leadership.
I agree.
But they always screw it up. They always screw it up.
Well, one good thing that came out of the House today is that the warring factions that changed the rules last time to allow for one vote to oust or to vacate the speaker's seat, which ousted Kevin McCarthy, has been changed today to 9 votes. So you need 9 people versus one person, which Gates last time made that motion, which ousted Kevin McCarthy. So now it's kind of interesting. Here's Gates resigning from the House after being nominated Attorney General, and they changed the rule on. So that's a smart move right there for the Speaker to do that. I think to save his job down the road for somebody like a Matt Gaetz who wants to get basically butthurt and decide they want to oust him from office. I think that majorly discredited and destroyed the Republican Party over the last 2 years to try to get anything done, or at least to stop the Biden onslaught. So I think this is a good idea that they changed this rule today, and how to do it on a day that Matt Gaetz resigns is kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. That's a fair point. It's sorry, the Alex Jones thing. One of the viewers asked about that, about Alex Jones. So the thing is, last year, the Sandy Hook families offered a deal to Alex Jones. They offered to settle for, instead of $1.5 billion for pennies on the dollar, they said, okay, pay us $85 million over 10 years. Actually, that's still a huge settlement, but that's reasonable in light of the $1.5 billion. He had to pay them $85 million over 10 years. And of course, that money would come from InfoWars and from him. So, that kind of took him off the hook. But apparently he's been living an extravagant lifestyle and they're not happy about it. He was supposed to also give them 50% of any income that he made over $9 million a year. I think that most of us could survive on $9 million a year. But Alex Jones, I don't know if he ever took that deal or not. He said it was too high for him to pay. And so he rejected it. So anyway, Yeah. He filed a bankruptcy notice last year. It said that he could afford to pay creditors about $4 million a year. That's what he said. So anyway.
Yeah. That'd be nice to be able to pay people just $4 million and not have to worry about it. I could pay you $4 million, whatever. No, not a big deal. I mean, wow. I guess we got to get into some InfoWars, right? Make some money.
Well, I mean, if you're wondering how much money Alex Jones made, I found it here. He was receiving a salary of $20,000 every 2 weeks. So $40,000 a month was his salary from InfoWars. That's $520,000 a year. But last year, a court-appointed restructuring officer who had nothing to do with Alex Jones upped his pay to $57,700 every 2 weeks, or $1.5 million a year, 3 times what he's getting paid, saying he was grossly underpaid for considering how vital he was to the media company. That's a fair statement. I mean, the guy is InfoWars. Without him, it's nothing.
Right.
So, but I mean, in the midst of a bankruptcy hearing, in the midst of a settlement of $1.5 billion, his salary got tripled. So, I mean, in the end, Alex Jones hasn't been suffering at all under this whole thing.
Yep.
So he got a judgment against him, but he got a raise at the same time.
Interesting. Yeah, that's gonna be wild to watch that play out. But yeah, you got to let somebody earn, before you could take everything from them. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, the guy's making $1.5 million a year. He's not suffering.
No.
I think that was the point. Is they find him so much that they were trying to disrupt his comfort of life. His.
Yeah, but think about all the other people who work for, say, InfoWars. I don't know how many people work for InfoWars that rely on that as a paycheck to be able to live at the same time. So I think those are the people should be taken into account. I mean, that's my thought.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. They forget about that. These organizations have people to work for them. Their glee at getting Fox News to pay $800 million settlement or $789 million with a Dominion case. Fox News has thousands of people to work for it. Those people could lose jobs as a consequence over a judgment, which I think was excessive. The damage done to Dominion was no damage. No. People still buy Dominion machines. In fact, people didn't know who the heck Dominion was until Fox News claimed that their machines were rigged. And then everybody heard about them and acquired, and they sold more machines than ever sold before. In fact, Dominion ought to be thanking Fox News for speaking ill of them because it made them famous. It put Dominion on the map.
The thing about it is, though, did they claim they were rigged, or did they claim they could be rigged?
I don't. I mean, I didn't watch Fox. I stopped watching Fox News a long time ago. It's just another propaganda outlet. There are very few genuine journalists left at that network. Although I will say that one of them that I had cast aside as not a legitimate journalist anymore, but just a talking head, proved his mettle when he interviewed Kamala Harris. And his interview of Kamala Harris restored my faith to some degree in none other than Brett Baer, someone that I'd lost faith in. So, So, I mean, there's a few people at that network like Shannon Bream who are still good journalists, but most of them are just talking heads.
Yeah, and making money like Seth and others. It's all about the profile. It's all about the clicks, the likes, and all that stuff. It's not about true journalism. I don't think in most cases.
And when I was at CPAC down there, John, I had occasion to run into several of these Fox News personalities, and almost all of them were just,
not
arrogant, conceited, and like they're special, and the rest of us were unclean. They wouldn't talk to other people. They just, it was really, they were kind of off-putting. And I'm not going to mention names, but I mean, almost to the man and woman, I found to be very off-putting. By contrast, Dr. Malone was there, and his name was big. Remember, this is when people were talking about the jab and COVID in 2022. We're still dealing with that. Dr. Malone was the big shiny penny, and Dr. Malone was a star. And Dr. Malone took the time to say hi and talk to me. Another person I met, I think I've told these guys before, who I found to be very, very, very off-putting was Sebastian Gorka. He was there. He was just very, that guy. But, but people like Dr. Malone, Kevin Sorbo is down there. A number of people running for office. A number of elected people are genuine. Matt Gaetz, I met him, shook his hand, chatted with him for a few minutes. He was very friendly, very professional. But the Fox News people, I met other media outlets there. I think One American News was there. Some other folks were there. And most of those people were very friendly. And, if they were working, they're working. You didn't bother them. But if there was downtime, they're willing to chat and talk, and whereas the Fox people over here don't talk to people. We're not, I just the whole Fox News organization I found to be very off-putting. That's my impression.
They don't want you knowing their trade secrets, Chris.
No, they don't want people on their team. They pick their team, and they don't engage with people. They engage with people for views. That's why they engage with people, not because they're committed to any cause. Now, they should be committed to the cause of objective journalism, but they're not even committed to that. So
yeah. Legacy media is what they started calling these old networks,
I call them the legacy, fake stream, lame stream media. That's what I call them.
But they, I mean, they're saying they're dying. You guys feel like they're actually dying? They're
We've been
losing
hearing
viewers?
this for 15 years. Look, I mean, I get more viewers in some of my videos than MSNBC gets on a nightly newscast. That's a true statement, by the way. And they're still around because they're financed by big media house. Fox News, Rupert Murdoch is a multi-billionaire, and his demented son is now in charge. They got enough money they could lose money at Fox News, and they're not making money, I don't believe, because they've lost all their advertisers because this illegitimate, shameful boycott of Fox News. I mean, all you get are, My Pillow ads. You don't get those anymore because now they've turned to My Pillow. So you get the same, PSAs and this video, which is like 15 years old. Christians helping Jews in the Soviet Union. Hey, the Soviet Union ended 30 years ago. I know there's elderly Jews who are approaching 100 years of age, but there aren't a million of them left in the Soviet Union because it doesn't exist. Anyway, so the point is, it's just, it's the average you see on there. What do you not see on Fox News? Ford F-150 pickup truck ads, Apple advertisements, movies coming out. You don't see any of that because they all boycott. So how are they making money? That's why they came up with Fox Nation, to get the devoted sycophants to pay a fee to go on there and watch it. By the way, I signed up for Fox Nation. I haven't found anything compelling. The only thing I thought was interesting was Jeff Hornacek's hot daughter. I thought she was a pretty entertaining journalist, but I can't find her, so I quit watching
it. So Elon, I think they found something.
Oh, and it was free. It was free. So that's
right. The veteran thing, yeah. So Elon Musk, he joined Donald Trump on a quote unquote very, very good call with Ukrainian President Zelensky. And of course, Zelensky, he tweeted out, it was a good call, congratulated him, all that. So this will be what they'll try to nail him down on. Be like, he was speaking with Zelensky, and he had Elon Musk on there. That's what they're going to try to impeach Trump on now. You watch.
Well, that's all interesting, but I would. Of course, nothing wrong with it. Just like there's nothing wrong with General Flynn talking to the Russian ambassador in D.C. when he was the national security advisor named. Now, if he'd just been some guy that was just, out there talking to the Russian ambassador, then we might have an issue. But he was already designated to be the national security advisor. No, look, I'd be more interested to see, how many towels they had to keep nearby after the phone call. I mean, they may have to call a disaster response team out in Kyiv, because the streets are flooded with Volodymyr Zelensky's tears. He can no longer get the gravy train of Joe Biden's, hiding cover up for his, hey, they fired the prosecutor. That money, I'll tell you what, Trump better dry that money up. He better dry that money up, and he better give some pardons out to people from January 6th, or he's going to come under a lot of pressure come February 1st. You watch.
No, I agree. Yeah, people are going to be watching this first 100 days and to see how it goes. And if he doesn't come through on some of this stuff, he's going to have people turning on him. I think that will happen.
Yeah, and as I told my viewers, and as I've told, and I've mentioned here, we will hold the Trump administration accountable.
Yes.
We didn't vote for Trump because we're Trump sycophants. So maybe John is. I mean, I can't.
No, he's not. Trust me, I was diehard supportive of Trump, but I'm like you. I want the truth. I like to deal in truth. I don't want BS. And if Trump is wrong, I'm more than happy to say Trump is wrong. I've said some stuff tonight about that people would probably find less than flattering towards Trump about his dealings with GSA and things like that. I mean, but those are things that I know to be truthful.
Now, Todd, did you notice that John said that he wasn't a Trump sycophant, and in the next sentence he said, "I'm a diehard Trump supporter."
Right? Yeah.
No, I said I was a diehard Trump supporter. I was all for Trump winning, but at the same time,
look, we were
I'm
all
not looking
for Trump
to date
winning.
the guy. You understand? I'm just saying.
I'd say, look, man, you can do what you want. You can identify as a lamppost for all we know. It's the 21st century in America.
Yeah.
No, but no, look, I mean, we will hold the administration accountable. And when the wall isn't built, when the deportation force doesn't begin shipping the 659,000 convicted by other countries with lower standards of law enforcement and criminal justice, and they're convicted of murder, rape, mayhem, everything under the sun. 659,000 of these criminals are in our country that we're aware of.
Right.
Why are they here?
That you know of, right?
Why are they here? Why are they not out of this country? Why are we actively, feeding them and clothing them and housing them in prisons, or they're walking around our streets because it's a combination of the two? This is insanity of the highest order. And you know what? Maybe I'll start a consulting or business firm that is associated with the mass deportation of criminal alien invaders.
Which apparently is going to be coming. But you watch, there's going to be Democrat and leftist organizations that are going to be trying to hide them, trying to do some sort of I don't know, Underground Railroad thing. I don't know. That's not right the best visual here, but
oh no. Look, I'll tell you what. I will start a 21st century Underground Railroad for criminal alien invaders, and I will help them escape to Canada every day.
To Canada and south of the border, down Mexico.
The Underground Railroad's main escape routes ran right through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania into New York and into Canada. A few went through Ohio, through Kentucky and Tennessee, but most went up through Maryland, through Pennsylvania. So I am all in favor of resurrecting. Hey, maybe I get to be that Brigadier General after all. Will the Maryland National Guard appoint me as a Brigadier General now, along with Harriet Tubman? If I start an Underground Railroad to help criminal alien invaders escape Maryland and get to Canada, where Jussie Trudeau can welcome them with handouts.
Well, he would deport them quickly too. You know he would.
Hey, whatever happened to Juicy Smollett?
Apparently he's still doing some acting out there. I think he's doing some.
Oh, he's been doing acting all along, Todd. He's been acting all along.
Yeah,
his best performance
not a good one.
His best performance was on an episode of Chicago PD. That was the real life bad boys. What you gonna do?
At 3:00 in the morning, the Alabama gang came up to get him. They knew exactly where he would be, next to the Subway sandwich shop.
Hey, Cletus,
No.
I mean, Todd, let's go to Chicago. We go rope one of them fellas there. I hear there's some of them homosexuals living in this housing project in this upscale part of Chicago. I got a trip ticket from AAA, and we put it in our minivan, and we drove to Chicago. It was minus 30. It was colder, which is, the rest of that phrase there, don't you, Todd? Yeah, colder, which is, not to be spoken on the airwaves. But we got up there, and that wind was blowing off the lake. And Todd, I mean, Cletus was telling me that we got to get this fella. Oh, give me a break, man. This is the dumbest story I ever heard in my life.
But they ran with it. And the people that were out, like Oprah, for example, out there, pleading for everybody to vote for Kamala, vote for Joe, vote for Obama, vote for the left. But all of a sudden, they wanted you to believe this fantastical story that you couldn't believe if you heard, 10 seconds of it. It was all nonsense. But here we are. We got to believe them. And at the same time, we got to trust them that they know what's best for America. So we got to vote for Kamala at the same time.
Isn't it starting to come out now that Kamala Harris had to pay people for these endorsements?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
That's been the allegation for several weeks.
I've been saying that, and
Oprah has denied that she received any money, but that's a lie.
But her company was paid.
Harper Productions was paid, which meant she didn't have to take money out of her pocket, which means she was compensated.
Right.
Because if her Harper Productions had not been compensated, she would have had to pay out of pocket. Since she didn't have to pay a pocket, she in effect was paid.
I should probably retract that and say not Kamala Harris, but the DNC or some.
The Harris campaign. The Harris campaign
was the
spent
Harris campaign.
$20 million on celebrity appearances.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Wow. I kept saying this is happening. These people. I mean, Eminem. Come on.
Well, I thought Enron was a bad investment, but obviously it pales in comparison to Kamala Harris.
A person who was so awful that, it was like Thursday, Friday, oh, she's so horrible. Joe's got to do this to turn it around. To over the weekend, they got rid of Joe. The palace coup happened. And on Monday, she's the best thing that's ever been. I'm like, we can never find a greater candidate ever. Except on Friday, she was the worst person ever. But I guess maybe it's the position she was in. She wasn't able to shine as vice president, but as president, that's where she's going to shine, right? Come on.
And she has no disagreements to Joe Biden's policies, but she's going to change them.
Oh, all of them, yeah.
So, Madam Vice President, what would you change from the Biden-Harris policies the past 4 years?
Nothing. So why are you running?
I can't think of anything.
Yes.
But
why
you're the agent of change. How stupid do they think people are? Apparently very stupid. Hey, you guys see my sign in the studio there. You can't fix stupid, but you can vote it out.
That's what we did. Yeah. So speaking of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, have you guys caught wind of this FEMA employee that apparently
is this in Florida where they skipped the houses that had Trump signs after the hurricane?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what gets me is that the houses that had Trump signs after the hurricane, those are pretty serious Trump supporters because those signs blew away. Their house is halfway down the street and they're putting signs out in the yard after the hurricane. I love it. That's some dedicated Trump voters there, man. But yeah, this isn't the first time FEMA's been accused of this activity, and every time it's been directed against conservatives and Republicans.
Sure.
They pull this crap all the time. Look, all we have to do is go back to, the nonsense in the Obama administration, where they denied, Lois Lerner denied tax-exempt status to legitimate tax-exempt organizations because they were conservative. And it's all the Tea Party movement was crippled. That's how they destroyed the Tea Party movement, by taking away their tax-exempt status, by giving tax-exempt status to corrupt Democratic leftist organizations, and then denying it to conservative organizations that were affiliated with the Tea Party movement. That's how it died. That, and then from the inside, it was eaten out by the people like Marco Rubio, Michelle Bachmann, and others.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And of course, giving over to the big Republican Party and thinking like, oh, we made headway, we got a few people elected. Now we can just, the RNC is going to follow suit and do what we want them to do. And they gave up essentially.
But let's be clear about one thing tonight before we wrap up this broadcast, gentlemen. And the resistance is on. We can see Gavin Newsom go back and try to backtrack his special session, the California legislature, say, no, I'm here to work with the Trump administration. We can see people say that Trump has won a red tsunami, a landslide, which is true, but it's already in play. We've already seen the election of John Thune as a leader in the Senate. That was done by Rhino Republicans in the Senate who wield power, who don't want to go along with the Trump revolution. So there's already resistance amongst rhinos. So the Senate is not going to, just because we have 53 votes doesn't mean Trump's going to get what he wants. Mark my words. It won't just be Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski who oppose him. It will be others who oppose him in the Senate. That's a problem. We needed 56 or 58 seats, which we didn't get, which was out of reach, in order to ensure that we didn't have this problem. We barely have the House of Representatives, and he's pulling people out of the House of Representatives, making that even weaker. So that's a problem for Trump. And of course, the Democrats in lockstep, everything Trump proposes, there'll be every single Democrat in the House of Representatives will vote against it, regardless of whether it's for or against their constituents' needs. So the resistance is already forming. It's already happening. The same nonsense that happened in the first Trump administration. We can only hope and pray that Trump is aware of what's going on and he makes the right picks. And maybe by picking Marco Rubio, he'll get a lackey, a sycophant will do what he wants, and he can just dominate him, which I think is the case. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. Ooh, that was powerful. That was my allergic reaction to resistance.
So instead of a Johnson treatment, he gives him the Trump treatment, basically, right? Pushes it, whoever he hires to be as a subordinate cabinet member or whatever, he push him around.
I think that's going to be the case. I think that's going to be the case with Pete Hegseth. He'll do what Trump tells him to do. Rubio do what Trump tells him to do. I think others are just smart choices. I mean, let me ask you guys. I don't know if you have all the faces in front of you or you've looked at all the appointments, but who do you think the smartest appointment, the best appointment, I think head and shoulders above every other appointment thus far that Trump has announced. What do you think the best appointment is? Let's see if we agree on it. Todd, you got somebody comes to mind, or John?
Yeah, or are we talking about that needs Senate confirmation or no?
No, just the name. I mean, you got Susie Walls, you've got intelligence, you've got cabinet picks.
Yeah.
Who do you think the smartest pick so far is? Let's throw out Susie. Susie Walls is a brilliant pick, but throw her out. So not the chief of staff. Anything after the chief of staff. There was one that just head and shoulders above the rest.
First person that comes to mind for me is Holman.
Okay, Holman. That's a good choice. That's a good choice.
Yeah, that's a good choice. The guys he's picked to be like his deputy or his chiefs of staff, if you will, associate chiefs of staff. I think those guys. There's a core group that's going to be loyal to him.
You know who those people are. Nobody knows who those people are. Todd. Tell us the picks that people know, the names they've heard of.
A lot of them. I think as national security advisor, I do like him. Former SF colonel.
Waltz.
I like him. Waltz. Yeah, I like him. Okay. That's a solid
all right. Well.
pick.
This is mine. Mike Huckabee, ambassador to Israel.
I was going to say that as well. That is a good call too. Yeah.
To me, hands down, that's the best pick thus far. There's no question about it. An honorable man, a man of faith, a man who respects all faiths. That to me is the hands down best pick thus far, particularly in light of what's going on in Israel right now. A true friend of Israel, a true friend of faith, a true man of principle. Mike Huckabee, who could have been a great president if he'd had the backing. Mike Huckabee, to me, is hands down the best choice to be ambassador to Israel. No question about it. And so far, the best pick in all of his nominations. That's my thought. Holman is a good pick as well. Yeah. But I think Mike Huckabee is hands down the best so far.
I'd say it's decent pick for sure. Yeah.
Okay. What's the most questionable we've seen so far?
Well, Gates being one of them. Okay. I think that's a big one.
John.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go with Gates. I can't think of anybody else right now.
Well, I think
Gates is concerning because of obvious reasons.
Yeah, I think Gates. I think we all agree on that. Did you have something else on that, Todd? Sorry.
No, I think that's about right. And of course, next week we're probably going to see a lot more. See how this thing plays out. very likely will have his entire cabinet and sub-cabinet probably appointed by that point.
Well, nominated anyway. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
nominated.
appointed,
Well, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, nominated.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Waiting
Appointees,
on,
have his appointees together.
designees, I should say. Yeah, designees.
Yeah, but at
should
this
be
point,
interesting.
it's Ouija board trying to figure it out. I mean, did any of these come out of left field? Were you shocked by any of these? I mean, at least Stefanik didn't surprise me at all that she was going to get something. Lee Zeldin didn't shock me, although I didn't expect EPA. Mike Waltz isn't a shock. Ratcliffe isn't a shock. But there's a couple of these. I mean, that they're like, what? Where did that come from? Which of those for you, Todd?
Now, I think there'll be a few more that'll pop up. But you know, like you said, the DNI. You know, I think that's a. I don't like her for DNI. I think that's my biggest pet peeve there. Somewhere else, perhaps, but not as Director of National Intelligence.
John, what about you? Any of them just kind of surprise you?
Trying to think of one that would.
Well, for me, John, Pete Hegseth just I was flabbergasted at that
That's
selection.
another one. Yeah, those are basically those three are kind of Gates, Hegseth, and then
and Gabbard. Yeah,
Gabbard. Yeah,
but I mean, look, we expected Tulsi Gabbard to be offered something. I didn't expect it to be that. I mean, maybe something like Secretary of Labor, something like that. But
I'm hung up on this Doge thing. I just think that I actually thought Ramaswamy, because he was kind of signaling at one time, the folks at CDLDU had actually had a video of him saying, we're going to fix transportation. We're going to fix trucking. And I kind of actually thought he was signaling that he was going to be the next Secretary of Transportation. I realized maybe for some people that might be a little bit inferior position for him. I didn't think so, but I kind of thought that's where he was going.
Oh, did Mike Reagan just die?
What?
Michael Reagan, President Reagan's adopted. Yeah, interesting. That's sad.
Did he? I mean, I don't know
he
if
was a radio show host at one time.
Yeah, no, I think I just got a message across my phone while you were. I'm sorry.
Oh wait,
I'm looking for it here. Let me double check.
30 seconds.
But we'll be back next week, 7 o'clock to 9 Eastern, right here. The Common Sense Conservative, WSM 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. See you next week, ladies.